Hello. Thanks so much for joining me here for this workshop called Probiotics 101. My name is Cameron Stewart, and I'm pretty much a probiotics nerd just because probiotics have helped me and my children in so many ways. So today I'm going to answer the questions. Why do we need probiotics? What are probiotics? And how do I get probiotics? And if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat, and my moderator will make sure that I'm aware of those questions and that you can, we'll see if we can address your questions and get them answered. So there's a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. So the first question is, why do we need probiotics? So the short answer is we need probiotics to help our bodies be healthy. Nobody likes to be sick, and probiotics are a fantastic, cheap, and easy way to keep your body strong and healthy. One thing that is important to understand is that when we talk about probiotics, we're talking about good bacteria, and there are good bacteria that help us to be healthy, and then there are also bad bacteria that make us sick. And sometimes we don't stop and recognize, okay, wait a second, there are bad bacteria and we don't want those around, but we definitely do want the good bacteria around. So our goal is to do the things that will help the good bacteria to be happy and healthy, and will keep the bad bacteria to a minimum. All right, so our bodies naturally host tens of thousands of different kinds of bacteria, and every place in our body and on our body is covered in bacteria, there's especially a lot in our lungs, in our mouth, on our skin, in our gut, and in our intestines. And all of these bacteria on our body combined make up what's called the microbiome. And scientists know that some illnesses are caused by not having enough of these helpful bacteria. Things like diarrhea, like high cholesterol, obesity can be caused by not having enough of the good bacteria. Rashes can be caused by not having enough of the good bacteria. And so we do know that there are specific things that can happen that are not happy, that are not what we want to have happen when we don't have enough of these good bacteria. And this poor kid obviously is having some tummy troubles, and tummy troubles are definitely something that can happen when we don't have enough of the good bacteria. Okay, so some of the things that happen in our modern world make it hard for our microbiomes to be strong and healthy. And oddly enough, one of the challenges that our microbiome has is that we are so much cleaner now than we used to be. And it used to be that people spent a lot more time out in the dirt, and the dirt actually contains a lot of very healthy and helpful bacteria that our bodies need. So even though it's important to be clean and healthy, it can be hard on our microbiomes at the same time. Another thing that has changed in our modern world is historically people would eat a lot of different foods that were fermented and actually included a lot of these helpful bacteria or probiotics. Things like fermented oats, those were big in the British Isles. Sourdough breads that have become less common. In certain areas, they would make fermented milk products and yogurt, and they would eat those on a very regular basis. And it helped them to have a significantly longer lifespan than people at that time who did not eat the cultured foods. So it really formed a protection against a lot of the infectious diseases like the flu and different things that used to be the major causes of death were protected. The people who ate fermented foods were protected against those illnesses. One thing that is important to recognize as well is that cooking food kills bacteria, And think about how now we have so many canned foods, and those foods have literally been cooked to death. So even though we're not getting sick as often from spoiled food and from foods that have rotted and aren't good that way and would make us sick that way, we're also not getting as much of the good bacteria as we need. And so that's creating a different kind of problem, but we can do things to take care of that. Another thing that is part of our modern world that has a negative effect on our microbiome is medications. A lot of medications can really kill the good bacteria in our microbiome as well as the bad. So for example, when we're taking antibiotics, it's actually a very common thing to get diarrhea as a result of taking antibiotics. But if you take a probiotic at the same time as you're taking the antibiotics, then that does a significant amount to help you to not get that kind of diarrhea that can otherwise happen. Nobody likes that. All right, so it is correct to say that in our modern world, our microbiome is under attack. And though in many ways our health is better than it has been historically, we need to learn about and work on helping our bodies be healthy by eating probiotics. There's still a lot of work that science needs to do to understand everything there is to know about all of the bacteria on our bodies, the human microbiome, the way that those bacteria work in our guts. But there are some things that we do know. For example, we do know that our intestines really love probiotics. Sometimes we call our intestines the gut. And so we know that our gut or our intestines really love probiotics. Probiotics help us digest food. They help us get all of the nutrients, the good things out of the food that our body needs, and keeps everything moving through our system like it should. And a lot of tummy and gut troubles are helped by eating probiotics. Another thing we know is that our skin loves probiotics. One study showed that 47% of babies have rashes, but when the mom takes probiotics while she's pregnant and then while she's breastfeeding, that 47% goes down to 15%. So that means there are 32% fewer rashes in babies where the mom takes probiotics while she's pregnant and while she's breastfeeding. That's good news. So what are probiotics? I've got this cool video here that I wanted to show you of, this is actual footage of probiotics in yogurt. And so you can see that they're moving around. They're very much alive. Those are some happy probiotics in there. So according to the National Institute of Health, probiotics are live microorganisms that have a healthy effect on the body. They are mostly bacteria, but they can also be yeast, and they are natural to find in fermented foods like yogurt and raw sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, kombucha, some of those things that you may have heard of, but they are also added to other foods, or they can be taken as a supplement. I just think it's very interesting to see what these live and active cultures look like. All right, I have a short video of some different foods, some of which have probiotics in them and others don't. And just for a fun game, I'd like you to count how many of these items have probiotics and which ones do not. And once you've counted how many items in this video have probiotics, then you can enter your answer into the chat and we'll see who got the answer right. Okay. Now, some of these I made pretty obvious and others maybe not so much so, but just take a guess and see if you can figure out how many of these foods and these items have probiotics. Oh, and that right there is some shampoo and conditioner for hair. Are you getting some good ideas? All right, go ahead and put your answer into the chat. How many of those items contained probiotics? Okay, I'm seeing some people entering in their guesses. Good, looks like some of you got the right answer. All right, well, if you said 8, you were correct. And here are all of the items that were shown that contain probiotics. We have 2 of these are actually capsules that contain probiotics, and that is one way that you can get probiotics in your system. If you want to do it with a supplement like this in a capsule, you want to make sure that it's a high quality probiotic that actually gets all the way down into your intestines where it can be the most helpful. And most probiotics on the market will tell you if they can get all the way into your intestines. Also, another way to know if it's a good supplement is just to ask around and ask your friends. And a lot of times they have probiotics that they really like that they can recommend for you to try. Also, this is some non-dairy yogurt that's made out of almond milk. So I thought this was a good thing to put in there because if you can't tolerate dairy, you can still get your probiotics with almond milk. Also, you can find things like cultured cottage cheese and cultured sour cream that have the cultures in it. And of course, this is some regular dairy yogurt. These shampoos and conditioners do contain cultures in them. So that's really an interesting thing that you can actually get probiotics to spray straight onto your skin. A lot of people find that very helpful for their rashes, or you can use it in this case to wash your hair and condition your hair, and that can help your scalp and your hair to be healthy. Also, here we have some raw sauerkraut that is full of live and active cultures. And one thing that maybe you weren't aware of, but the cloudy apple cider vinegar is a great source of probiotics, and that is really delicious to put on different salads and or to use on your steak or meat or some other things. There's a lot of ways that you can use this apple cider vinegar when you're preparing food. So these are just some examples of ways that you can get probiotics into your diet. And this is an example of what you would see on the label that lets you know that this food contains probiotics. Live and active probiotics. Also, some of these fresh pickles are another food that often will have probiotics in them. You can see on the ingredient label, these ones contain the actual names of the different bacteria, the different kinds of bacteria. And all of these are Latin names, so don't let it overwhelm you, but just recognize that if you see these kinds of words on the back, then it's got probiotics. And also this one says contains live and active cultures. And down here, you can see that it has the lactobacillus ferment. So that's how you can see the probiotics there. Live and active cultures, lactobacillus paracasei. And then this is one of the supplements, and you can see that it has several different kinds of bacteria in it. And so that can be a good thing to look for and to be aware of as well. So one of the rules of thumb is if you try a food that has probiotics in it and you don't like the way it tastes, if you will try that food 10 times quite often, you will discover that you really do like it. The science says that sometimes you have to try a food 10 times before you know if you're going to like it or not. So just keep that in mind and keep giving it a try. So we've talked about why we need probiotics, and we've talked about what probiotics are and how we get probiotics. So I hope that you will go eat some probiotics today and enjoy the great health benefits that including probiotics in your what you eat, and also for your family. And thank you so much for joining me for this workshop.